Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua, Osinachi. One name, Osinachi. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
Downstairs.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua, Osinachi. One name, Osinachi. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
Yes, sir. I think this one is back, so all of them they are touching. That's the problem. So they
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
A ní wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi, Amukwa, Osinachi. One lemon, Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
Don't change the shape.
Not just a change.
Okay.
Acho que
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So we are here for a panel, primary and secondary school in Nigeria, session 9N. Currently, seems the panel chair will not be available, and we may not have to present us. Two from the University, Lagos State University of Education, they are not here at the moment. We also have another scholar from the Federal University, Lokoja, who is also not here, I believe. But we have Omilani Nathaniel from the University of Ibadan. So I think we'll start with you while we wait for the others to know if they will join us. And should they be unable, maybe we can engage each other and then continue. So, Mr. Omilani, Dr. Omilani, right? Okay, Dr. Omilani, your time starts now. Considering the circumstances, you have 20 minutes. Yeah, he has 20 minutes just in case we have questions, engagements, discussions. So.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Milani Nathaniel Ayodeji, and I'm presenting a paper titled Pedagogy Usefulness of Odolaye Areni's Dadakwada in Quantitative and Verbal Reasoning in Primary Schools. Next slide. Now, quantitative aptitude and verbal reasoning are two subjects that the Nigerian National Policy of Education did not document as a subject, but they are being offered in the primary schools. Quantitative aptitude and verbal reasoning are to provide children with analytical and evaluation skills to solve numerical and language problems. So the exposure of learners to these two subjects is intended to give them the opportunity to solve numerical and language problems, not tilting in the direction of numeracy and literacy directly, like English language and mathematics will do. But when they have numerical problem, they will be able to solve it. This is an example. Next slide, please. This is an example of a qualitative reasoning task for a primary 6 students. And the way this subject is being taught, learners are expected to look at the examples. And based on the examples given, they will be able to solve the problem. So it is not detailed of teaching like we have in mathematics and physics and English language, where but they will just give examples and the learner is expected to solve other problems with that example. For example, the example I have provided, the learner is supposed to think thus. You have to divide 15 by 3, the 3 under, and that is equals to 5. Then you multiply 6 by 4, which is 24. Then you add 24 plus 5 to get 29. If you look at the second task also, the learner is expected to do the same thing so as to solve the problem. You multiply 2, you divide 48 by 3. You also multiply. That's the same pattern for the 3 tasks. So the question mark for the second task is that the learner should now find out what will be on top. If the learner multiply 5 by 7, he will get 35. So, and if you divide 12 by 4, you get 3, and so on and so forth. I have provided the example. Another example under verbal reasoning. Please move to the third verbal reasoning. Yes. The student, which word can be formed from rearranging the letter battle? So the student is to just think about. So for instance, the answer to that one is tablets, and on arrange. These are the tasks that verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning is all about. Next slide, please. Now, the teaching and learning of verbal and quantitative aptitude in Nigeria, these two subjects, is yet to inculcate cultural responsive pedagogy. And this makes many parents unable to support their children at home. If you go to many Facebook page where parents and teachers meet, you can see a parent uploading a task on quantitative reasoning, and he will say, help me solve it, because it's not direct like mathematics or English that has a specific guidelines and decision rules. There could be another triangle and all of that. So in some instances, most especially when it comes to quantitative reasoning, the learners find it uninteresting when they are to solve that problem. Next slide, please. Now, the point is that the ingenious resources have been identified to make teaching and learning meaningful for African children. They can connect students to their cultural heritage and make learning more relatable. These resources can be abstract or concrete. Move to the next slide, please. Indigenous resources, the abstract indigenous resources include objects. That's the mistake. The abstract supposed to be for the concrete. Yeah, the concretes are things like objects, plants, animals that can be used for teaching, while the abstracts include stories, songs, and other forms of oral traditions, which are useful in the process of teaching and learning. Next slide, please. Now, oral poetry is an indigenous resource in the abstract category. Oral poetry is a form of spoken word tradition that has been used for centuries to educate and entertain. It can be used to teach a variety of subjects, including history, literature, and mathematics. It can be used to teach many subjects. Next slide, please. Now, there is a concept that is fonts of knowledge. Fonts of knowledge refer to historically accumulated and culturally developed bodies of knowledge, skills essential for individual functioning. It is anticipated that providing fonts for knowledge will empower a learner. That means the fonts that you are using for knowledge is from his environment. So when learners are taught with fonts of knowledge that has their indigenous content in, it is very relatable for them in various aspects of the curriculum. Next slide, please. Appian describe what we call autonomous acculturation through anthropological learning as a situation where a pedagogical approach allows the student to learn concepts, school curriculum, and indigenous knowledge are closely related to the topics and works as a fund of knowledge. That means what the learner is about to learn in school, there is a fund of knowledge within his culture that can be used for it. Next slide, please. So the argument of advocates of using funds of knowledge for pedagogy is that when it is used, it increases students' enthusiasm, retention, engagement, it sustains their interest and makes them to be self-motivated. So today, I'm presenting a fund for knowledge that is found in one of the indigenous music of the Yoruba people. And the genre of this music is called the Dadakwada. And one of the popular musician in this genre of music is the man called Odolaye Areni. This subgenre of music has complex lyrics and social commentary. It deals with a wide range of human experiences. Next slide, please. Now, in all of these tracks, I have selected one of these tracks called Alakori, Alakowi, which contains lyrics that can be used to teach quantitative and verbal reasoning. They are forms for knowledge. The lyrics mention counting objects, comparing quantity, solving simple word problem. The song also uses wordplay, figurative language, which can help students develop their verbal reasoning. Next slide, please. See, the way Odolaye Areni does his presentation, his lyrical that we agree that there is so much of repetition and reading are used strategically to enhance memorability. You will be saying the same thing of the concept being presented. And this is very good for the child who is in primary school purpose. More than that, the lyrics also incorporated challenges that prompt student critical thinking about the presented information. And one thing about Odolaye Areni is that he also presents himself as somebody who does not know when he's raising his question. So there's so much of anticipation even within him and his listener. Next slide, please. So the song I will be picking is Motimogbon Orimi, Alakori ati Alakowe, and I will be picking line by line presentation. Please let me have the sound. Now, within that single line, what he's saying is that I have gained wisdom and understanding, not just through reading book. Said I have had insight even without formal education. So what he is saying is that without formal education, the Western form of education that involves reading and writing, he has gained some measure of insight. Next slide. Now, the next sound is said, Ìwé yàtọ̀, ọgbọ́n orí mà ló jẹ́ bàbá. Ìwé yàtọ̀. He said, books provide knowledge, but wisdom is what truly makes one a leader. Let's listen to that. Ìwé yàtọ̀, ọgbọ́n orí mà ló jẹ́ bàbá. That's what he's saying. So before he even started presenting the task that will prompt students to the listeners to think. He began to give us the understanding of the differences between the modes of learning that is already existing before we came in contact with the Western mode of learning. Next slide, please. Now, the first task he provided. Could you play this sound? Now, what Odulaye Aremu is saying here is that between the leader of the thrift and the leader of the Yesu, who is more courageous surety in case anyone defaults? Olori Otori system is like the what they call Ajo now. Ajo is the local form of making contributions. Like we are 6 in this room. So there's somebody that comes to collect, maybe daily collection. So the first one we all collect is his own. And if there are 29 days in the month, he will collect every day. But the first amount he collects from us is his own. But he will now, at the end of the month, he will pay us what we have contributed individually for the 29 days. So somebody who pays 100 naira for 30 days, are you with me? Will be paid 2,900 instead of 3,000 because the first 100 naira belongs to the thrift collector. That is her just system. So there is now what we call the ESU system. The ESU system is that we are all staff in a secondary school or primary school. We now said, don't let us just let us be contributing 1,000 naira end of the month. And when we contribute, the first collection will be 6,000 naira. We will give it to Mr. A. You know, the second one, it will also be 6,000. We will give it to Mr. B. So everybody will be having 6,000 at the end of the month until 6 months is completed. That's the issue system. So he's asking a question, which is verbal reasoning, that the person that heads a job, that means the thrift collector, and the one that is doing a issue, the one that heads the issue system, who is more courageous, surety, in case anyone defaults? And the answer is provided in the next slide. Please. Now he has provided the answer. He said, Olori Elesu Lulaya Agbese. The meaning is that, you know, we can hold the man that is collecting thrift from us if there is a problem, we know him. But this man, we are all staff. So the one that cannot, there is nobody responsible or accountable among us. But he that volunteered to say he will be the one to head us instead. So what, like this one we say, battle, reading, stuff like that, they are also thinking about reasoning verbally. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, he began to also ask about another thing. Please play the sound. He said, he who learns through logical thinking is the one, and the one, who learns through formal education, who will be best in mathematics? And his answer is that he who learns through logical thinking. So he's talking about logical thinking and issues related to mathematics calculation. Next slide, please. Now here is also talking about the concept of Afunsho Aderomu Olomide. Could you play that sound?
Afunsho Aderomu Olomide.
Now he's talking about a caretaker, the free taker, and the real owner. If something gets missing, who is the real person that is accountable? You know, if I'm a caretaker of this phone, you just left it with me. I'm just taking care of it in your absence. That is a home shop. If somebody comes and I'm not paying attention and he takes it away from me, that is Aderomu. The real owner of the phone that gave me the phone initially, that is Olomide. So he's saying who owns it. So look at the way he's using the language to teach the learner and ask questions about verbal reasoning. So he's saying that it is the caretaker that really has the responsibility of taking account of whatsoever is missing there. Next. Now, this is the longest slide and the last one, which is about the data in that line of that song. And I would love you to get the translation before it plays. Lile that I wrote there is like a call. And somebody answered him. I want to give you a mathematics class. That's what it's saying. I want former educated person. I want the former educated person to answer. And I also want the student to answer. So, and those are the, so you can play this slide, please. Thank you. Now, the mathematics of the quantitative reasoning that he gave them as a verbal task cannot be solved without conversion. So you can go to the next slide, please. Here I have provided what he gave them. Being a scholar, I had my first degree in chemistry education. I had my second degree also in chemistry education. It took me a longer time to respond to this because I had to go through all this system of conversion. But he promptly gave a response that it is £30 and 13 kobo. So where I spent time, he that is not educated just give. I don't know whether before he did his recording, he has done what I have done in the studio in the 70s. But there is something he was saying there. If you understand Yoruba, he told the Egbe, that's the person, he said, you must not use book for this task. That he wants him to use Akori, which is the objective of this verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning for primary school students. Next slide, please. So after I did my own calculation, I found out that the man was very correct with his prompt answer. Next slide, please. Now, the pedagogical benefit of this is that this process, apart from enthusiasm and meaningful learning, it has the potential to teach learners other subjects, issues, cultures, such as history when used. For instance, if a primary school teacher deploys this sound and he has many other sounds like this in his songs, the teacher, apart from teaching the learner verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning, is teaching them history of how money is being collected in the past. When he talks about Esu and Olori Ojuri, when he talks about the pounds and shillings system, he's telling the child about things that we have learned in our indigenous past in terms of, oh, what was Nigerian spending? When was Nigerian spending £3 and all of that? The next thing is that the benefits is that knowledge is now contextualized. You can imagine this sound and the diagram. This sound that I have provided and the diagram, this sound is more relatable in terms of providing problems and teaching verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning. Next slide, please. Now, the conclusion is that the Dadakwada music is just a representation. There are many genres of folklore music that has the potential to teach and to be the fonts for knowledge for various school subjects. You know, yesterday I was speaking with somebody in Germany, and we're talking about commensalism, the concept which plants put their structure on another tree so as to survive, for support, not for nutrient. They will still get their nutrient normally. And I told him that there is a incantatory poetry that the Yoruba people used to ask for favor when they are going out in the morning. They will say, Tigitope, Ni Shanu Afumo, Gbogbo aráyé ẹ máa ṣàánú mi. Within their incantatory poetry, they have explanation for commensalism. And when this is adopted in a biology classroom as fonts for knowledge, it is more relatable when the concept of epiphytic relationship is being taught to the learners. So what we said is that the Alakowe's example serves as a compelling example that can be used to effectively engage students and make learning of quantitative and verbal aptitude. The presentation highlights the potential of incorporating indigenous knowledge into primary school education. Further research is recommended to explore the broader effectiveness of using Dadakwada music and other indigenous resources. Recommendation. It is recommended that teacher can leverage on this as a scaffold or a springboard for the process of teaching and learning of these concepts. Teacher can design activity specifically based on the concept presented. Beyond the song, the teacher can think himself and form things. And this will to promote the deeper engagements. Students can even create their own songs or poems to integrate mathematical concepts and verbal reason. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for the education, Dr. Nathaniel. Very, very nice. You brought the novel concepts. It's not really novel, but in terms of quantitative and verbal reasoning in Nigeria, using music to teach them. And I must say that, especially quantitative reasoning, is one of the tables for primary school. Yes, I was in primary school all the time. Starting from then, I did mathematics, and I didn't want to go. So it's a very great idea. I don't know if there are questions, comments from the persons who are listening. Okay, so I have a question. Sorry, so when I ask them, you can go. Don't you think that by using songs, we might get to the point where these children will get distracted? But for the songs, they may ask him the song, he will remember the song, they will sing them, but the message that the song is trying to pass across, they will be missing it because I know there's also something about song is it can be kind of a constructivism something the way you get to interpret it in your own way. So don't you think we have a danger in that? And if there is a danger in that, we what are the ways that we can stop sharing is not presenting? What are the ways that we can mitigate that? You know, the issue of children getting distracted, getting carried away by these songs. So the child will just be singing the songs, but the message being passed across is not getting it, is not remembering it the way, and you know, how do we work on that? When let's all questions you can just take them. Okay, so
I don't have a pen. I don't have a pen. Let me check the pen. Last one. Check my bag.
Okay.
Anywhere.
it's let's start with let's
Okay.
are you a presenter? Okay.
Okay. I think what's okay.
We just have one presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's traditional. For example, many of debates around this has actually been reduced to just argument and polemics, and people just stop at that level. But there is actually the strong belief that if we can go the indigenous way to teach our students, perhaps they would actually be able to understand what we are teaching them more. So my questions now, they are more questions because I mean the work is beautiful, super. I mean it's just so now, but I'm trying to see. I don't know, because when I was listening, I was hearing some concept that I feel that might not be too suitable for that age. Like if we are looking at the age of our primary, we are talking of maybe 6 to 12, and we know that now we've bastardized everything, it's even lower. So I don't know what kind of age you recommend for this kind of approach. For me, I'm thinking maybe upper primary, J1 to J3. I'm just curious if this will work for. It's a question. One. Number two, I'm also thinking that can this approach be deployed to teach all that subject effectively? Should we not just use it to teach Yoruba? Because I mean, there's philosophy and within the context of language now, there are a lot of things we can teach. So I don't know if it will be fine for many other subjects, or we should just leave it to teach Yoruba, where you can actually treat the language, learn other things to that to be useful for you. So using Kanibaba's framing too, it came to my mind to also talk about attractiveness of this genre now. For me, maybe it's fine, but I don't think I would too much enjoy it. I would want a situation whereby if you can use Davido's rhythm and stuff like that to now, contemporary music to actually contemporary melody to express some of these lyrics. If it would actually be more attractive, and that will not in a way perhaps dilute what we have too much because we just have to be innovative about some of our cultural expressions. And the Afomom commercialism thing, very, very interesting. Every bit of your plan is so interesting. But then I'm seeing a challenge here because of the way we practice religion. So when you now wake up in the morning and you say, some people who have actually embraced Christianity or Islam in some kind of way, so extremely, be like, is this not you? Will I want to teach my child this way? I don't know, still a question. And lastly, I would just want to ask, since you said you studied chemistry education, have you ever tried to actually employ some indigenous ways to teach? Because I know chemistry is a level for me. I'm not a science guy, but I hear from science students and those that chemistry can be very tough. Have you really tried to like employ some indigenous measures to teach chemistry? Thank you very much, and once again, so beautiful presentation.
We have a question.
Yeah. I'd like to know better about the trajectory, biographic trajectory of Odolaye Alu, from where does come from his field of pedagogy, what is the scholar education trajectory. As an historian, I want to know more about the trajectory of Odolaye Alu if does he come from a specific pedagogical school in Nigeria, and more about that.
I have not a comment. So thank you for that presentation. I liked the fact that you brought in logical thinking or critical thinking, as some will call it. You brought out how we using it to promote logical and critical thinking. But there is an aspect I want to look at it from that. Can we really say that he was trying to use this music to promote this pedagogy? Because from the lyrics that you quoted, he was saying that Alakowe, like I felt like he was kind of mocking the formal education system, not really promoting it. Because the first thing he said was Motikawe, yeah, Motimogbon mi. Then like yes. Then he got exactly. So can we really say he's propagating the pedagogy, or he's trying to say that even without formal education, the most important thing is critical thinking, which is not actually a bad thing, because critical thinking is important even in formal education. But in the context of this your presentation, can we really say that? Yes, thank you. I hope you understand.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the first question about distraction for the children. You know, when we talk about something as funds of knowledge, which we have, this paper intends to only identify the remote songs, most especially the Alakowe track in that popular album Alakowe, as a fund for knowledge. Now, in the cultural responsive pedagogy, it's as if you have identified a raw material. So it is not in this form that it will be deployed. The other concerns, like the ones you have expressed in it being a distraction, will be taken care of when the pedagogy is now refined to the extent of it is now having procedure of step 1, step 2, step 3 in terms of classroom delivery. When it comes to procedure for using it, now we have identified a funds of knowledge that within the frame of the our cultural context, there are resources, as it were, that are useful, you understand, for teaching those concepts. And you will notice that the thing is not moving there, so that your audience will see the person talking. So the point is that when a funds of knowledge is actually identified, it is very, very important that it's taken to another step, to another level of making it switchable. It's like drugs. The concentration of the paracetamol, if it's taken like that to human system, and in the active ingredients, there will be dangers to our health. So the identification of funds for knowledge is a stage in developing a culturally responsive pedagogy for learners. So it is something, a resource that will be taken to another level when experts, early childhood education experts, child psychology experts, mathematics and verbal reasoning experts now say, oh, we want to now develop a scheme that will do this. That's the first. The next thing is about the suitability. Somebody, in terms of the age range, and I think my first response has actually taken care of that. And I want us to also understand that those of us who are learning the curriculum in most of the developing nation has content of the Western component most of the time. And there is something that we call culture border crossing. It also affects the classroom. When the students are to cross borders, cultural border, they have to see the equivalence of many of those concepts in their own culture. That is when the transition and cultural border crossing will be. For instance, if we talk about electrolysis now, and we are talking about protons, we talk about things that are electrophilic, and we can talk about nucleophilic. Those ones, they are from Greek language, which is talking about proton loving and electron loving. If I'm in a chemistry class and I'm trying to explain those two concepts to a learner, even if they're in Nigeria, I must take them to a bit of that language where those things come from. And electrons do not have emotions like men, but it's for them to understand that this will attract electron, this will attract photon. If we talk about monocotyledon, dicotyledon, we are talking about two seed one seed. So there is no way in most of the curriculum that we are running that we are not taking journey into cultures and languages other than us. So we should not be ashamed or restrained by any other thing, by anything that is saying that we shouldn't go into our own, that are representing the same thing. That the person I was talking to in Germany was telling me about his friend who is on onboard fellowship, where she is profiling indicators of rainfall. How do Africans know that there will be rain? The way that suffer move, the birds that cry, those are their own indicators. And they are trying to subject it to real software that can be used for prediction, just like some meteorological characteristics are being profiled. So where I would say it is always suitable is that if we are taking journey into other climates in order to make learning more meaningful, within our client resources that are available to make such learning meaningful shouldn't be jettisoned or now the point is that somebody talks about the attractiveness of the reading in terms of the pop life now, the pop culture. Perhaps what I want us to realize is that anything that is from the indigenous past is valued more now. There is this sensitization, there is this awareness. And there is a way, if I had played the video here today, there is a way it will be perceived in terms of attention to the lyrics compared to this one. This one is holding you down. It's holding you down. So relatively, either way, there is no experimentation on this yet because it's an identification of a functional knowledge. So as time goes on and it is well developed, all those issues, for instance, you can have a group that the same lyrics is following the current pop culture, and another one is following this old pop culture, and we will see whether there will be differentials in the group. Then about the example I gave about the incantatory poetry, the point is that before incantative poetry begin to work in the metaphysical dimension, they are just poetry. The force that takes most of the incantative poetry of the Yoruba origin into the metaphysical dimension requires things that are more beyond words. They require, that's not the our attention today. But many of the religious people may not understand. They just feel immediately you are saying those things, you are already calling on demons and evil spirits. But the truth is that the incantatory poetry, they are things that are reported based on observation of our environment. When they say, for not company, do job, what it means is that when somebody, in the ancient times, there is no matches. So when you want to generate fire, you have to do a lot of striking. And if you don't have apadi is a broken pot. So immediately that fire is formed a bit and it's kindled, you are supposed to carry it to a bigger place where there will be real combustion and your fire. But if you don't have that apadi to put it, you put it in your hand. And since it's burning, the temperature is not favoring. If somebody greets you, you will run fast. You won't be able to say, hey, what happened yesterday? Because there's something eating you on your hand. So it's observation. It's not, it is when things are now added to these sacrifices that most of these things now become. So if people are aware of all this, they will know that they are observation. I want to say that most of these Odulayarism, you can Google, they are not educated people. They don't have the formal education. They are farmers. Some of them are.
Odulaye, it's not a person.
He's a person.
He's a person.
Yes.
But he was not educated.
He was not educated in the Western
Okay.
So,
Pedagogist, right?
no, he's not a pedagogist. I'm proposing that the lines of his songs are so rich, the lyrical powers and the depth of it are so rich, and they can be funds for knowledge, for teaching in the classroom. And the final comments, please remind me of that last comment.
It was like, yes, it's using the lyrics to praise critical thinking.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember now. You were saying that within the lines. Please play that slide that you are talking about, so that you will. I can relate to the slide that you are talking about. Two slides. The first one. Is it the first one?
Yeah.
Alakori, is it the one?
Yeah. Even
Motimogo, play it. Play the. Yes, that's what I want you to say. Play the two slides so that. The next one. Is it this one?
Okay, then yes, we say the way yato or more root man. Okay, let me say it.
Now, the point is that within the philosophy or thinking of Odulaye, he was never relegating or mocking the Western method of education. But he was talking about the means to an end. Are you with me? The means to an end. And it's within the framework of his thinking, he's telling us that although there are more than one means, what the destination is for Mori Toje Baba. You understand what I'm saying? What is the destination? I would love you to look at the question they raised on Alakori, Alakowi. when he was talking about Allah Kori, that's like play.
Alákọ̀rí, alákọ̀ra, alákọ̀wé, ta ló mọ̀ sí ojúra wọn lọ? Alákọ̀rí ni.
Thank you. Look at what he's saying. When Yoruba talks about akọ is male. Are you with me? And it is something that is related to strength. Are you with me? Now, when somebody is called Alakori, Alakori has many contexts. One of the contexts is that when they do evil to you, it will not come to you. That's one context. The next context is that your intelligence is sharp. Are you with me?
Yes.
So in the context of his thing, of his lyrics, he's talking about somebody with a sharp intelligence and somebody who is alakora. Alakora is somebody that is not intelligent, somebody that the English Bible calls the simple. Are you with me? Why alakowe is in its context is somebody that is exposed to the Western form of education. So he's now saying that which of these three people will be the best in mathematics? And his response is Alakori. Don't forget that Udodaya Remu is saying that this thing is about a means to an end. So becoming Alakori is not only to the indigenous knowledge alone. Are you with me? You can become Alakori through the Western method of schooling. But the Western method of schooling does not guarantee you becoming Alakori. You can be an Alakowe. Are you getting me, ma?
Yes.
Without getting to Alakori. But he is saying that he never went to the formal schooling system, and he eventually became Alakori. You understand what I'm saying? So what is actually play the last slide. The last slide that has data for you to have it.
This one.
Yes.
Mo fi ìṣirò kan dá yín lọ́lá. Mo yẹ bá di alákọ̀wé ọdún. Èèyàn ọmọléèwé ẹ dá mi lóhùn. Mo ọmọdé yòókù mọ́ o. Àádọ́rin tọ́lá. Àádọ́rin ṣíṣì. Àádọ́rin kọ́bọ̀. Àádọ́rin èkìlì. Bàbá rò pọ̀. Èèyàn lọ́jọ́. 70 ni o. Dédé ilé ìbòrí yẹn o.
So now what Odolaya Aremu is trying to convey within that line is that he wants that question to make the difference between the person that Western education has made Alakori and the one that is just Alakori. That's why I said, mo fẹ́ kí Alakori go down. I am an Alakowe and I have answered it. But it is not all Alakowe that will take the pain required to answer it. Are you with me? So he is not relegating. You understand what I'm saying? But he is a response because this song was in the 70s. Is a response to the public perception that one is lower, one is better.
Thank you for your and your last line actually just summed up the majority of my concerns. You know, in that time, it was like if you are not formally educated, you are not sharp, do what you are doing. So yes, thank you, sir, for your response. And you have the entire any other
I just want to, I didn't finish this presentation, but I listened to all the response. So, because this pedagogy, a lot of people have been writing about it, my level will be aware. Well, I read about one where if you look at the keynotes on Thursday, they're also similar, but I think it's in different contexts. So looking at performance as method. So what saying so when I was in Berlin last year and we talked about it and everybody looked at me being the African of it, that I should explain for it. And they said, why because we were textual, we're from a moral society. Performance was our method and also observation. Even this performance has stages because there was the observation was the most important because majority of the houses, because we live so much in kinship, majority of the houses had the type of informal education that was inherited to them that day, that was like their gift. For example, I'm from the drum family. They have people from the blacksmith family and everything. So knowledge was kind of censored within restricted within that family background. So and although outsiders were allowed to learn the trade, but take extra interest because there was something that was expected for your family to contribute. But when we look at things like the IFA was another level of education because it was like we have medicine now, or even let's say the PhD of learning there. It was something that would take 20 years to learn because you have to you have to work on your memory, the ability to observe, to use herbs and everything. And it's so common that they say that while the incantation is going on, if you make a mistake, another person will tell you. Ideally, you are not expected to make a mistake because you've been trained for years and everything. So it was interesting. Like, even learning in the traditional society was not static. So it was not just one method approach. Like in my own family, because I'm Italian, so it's going to be more performance and rote memory. Because we are supposed to be we were documenting the history of the town through music. So like my forefathers, we have the type of beats that they will use to warn the king when they say something contrary. So they were communicating because they were the palace historians. So and there was also the type of performance they give when they're giving national history during the festival. So there's this audience and the performance approach. So all that. So what coming back to the pedagogy. So like the Dutch guy beside me said, what if somebody outside that culture, if it's a member of that class, really understand the performance? So because we're looking at a place like, I can understand this method. I'm not saying it's a profit. I say, like I said, it's something they can all work on. Look at the lapses and everything and look at how to integrate it. But a place like Oyo or Shore State where they are highly homogeneous, talking about the interior, not the cities. But if you now look at the cities where we have multicultural society, practicable to use the indigenous language.
Yeah, it is very much practical in the sense that the children are always willing to take exciting journey.
Okay.
That's the nature of children. For instance, I have friends in Germany schooling Humboldt scholars, and you will discover that within 3 months, their children are already speaking that language. And they that have been there for long, they can't speak. I have an experience in December. It took the boy December or March. And the way the father was just saying how it is. So where I'm going is that, I said it earlier, I said pedagogy that we practice. I'm a scientist. There is no way we will learn some concepts in science without taking those journeys into languages, you understand what I'm saying? Into so many things. When you are talking about chromatography, The root word is in separation in Greek. So before you start explaining to learner for him to understand, you understand what I'm saying? We are making several journeys. So if we are in a cosmopolitan environment, like you are describing, it is not out of place. So attempts is still closer than Latin to the child. You understand what I'm saying? And you notice what the pop culture has done. The pop culture has done so much to language that in the attempt to follow the lyrics, the cosmopolitan child has a bit understanding, even if his parents are Igbo. He has stayed among Igbo Yoruba child in Lagos, Yoruba children. He has listened to a lot of things. You understand what I'm saying? It would not cause any harm for them because they are the exploring. They are not as rigid as us. They don't have that friends that we have. The question I no answer, which you raised, if I have attempted to douse your own fear concerning in a cosmopolitan environment or metropolitan where we have diversity of children in the class, the average child in that kind of environment will have traces of the dominant language, traces which can be a scaffold to deeper things. It may be at home, and if you just be saying all these things, you'll be like, yeah, it's me saying. And the parents will just wonder, what's this one? Now, I have done 2-3 work around this indigenous. I have used the Agbole system, the Yoruba Agbole system, to teach functional group and homologous series, which I published with Science Teachers Association of Nigeria. You know that the homologous series describe the family of organic compounds which have the same empirical formula and the difference between each unit CH2. So, for instance, we can have the alkanes. The alkanes, they are the saturated hydrocarbons, and they usually have one single bond. You have a carbon, you have a carbon, just have one single. The alkanes, they are double bonds. Carbon here is double. The alkynes, they have triple. Are you with me? And within the context of that lesson, I was trying to establish the peculiarity of tribal marks of Wenalgili and some things that are peculiar to them. I remember we did something with the Iron Gallops when we were illustrating that it is not everybody in a particular family that specializes in all drums. Some are just shekere, and that's the way we illustrated functional group. That means the functional group represents a bond, a radical, a charge that differentiates member of the same that differentiates one homologous series member from another. Although they are all organic compound, they are the action people. But some of them specializes in this, and their chemical properties and physical properties are things that we represented with their delay, and all the things that we do. So we're illustrating those things. I have also done things around climate change pedagogy, which I send you the link if you wish to. You wanted to
Yeah. Oh, just to add to that. And there's something in language education, when mother tongue, recent studies have shown that even when you teach children that can speak multiple languages, it enhances their critical thinking skills, that kind of thing. So it's not actually out of
educate them in regional languages like STEM. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I was going to address this point when on the phone because I've taught people from northern primary and secondary. So I understand our children. There's something that I feel our method needs to we just need to like contribute to this pedagogy in our own way. Like our method, the performance method, the fun method works a lot. What I'm saying is that there's some children, a lot of people, even adults don't even know, have what we call attention deficit syndrome. And the fun method is one of the most effective ways to teach these people because a child you can teach a child and it's blanking away. Yeah. But when there's a sound that got to memory, like because aware. So such students easily get bored in class. I will say, okay, while growing up, I myself, sometimes when I'm doing some God, like, why am I doing something that does not have pictures? You understand? But when the performance, if you're able to capture the attention from the very beginning, they'll be interested in everything that you're saying. So I'm saying that I'm agreeing with the method. I just hope they're able to know all the various yes, something that worked out for centuries. Yes. So what do you think?
You look at our indigenous songs, they are very rich, especially in riddles. When you look at
it is not first time because I work on local indigenous groups. It's not the first time that they're doing that teaching in indigenous language. In fact, they did it in the earlier period. Yeah.
Babs Falcon.
Yes, but from one another, they had project.
Yes.
And they created what we call
1970.
the wiki cards.
That's how we a project. Science. Yes, very science group of students, science, and then they were replicated into UK Birmingham project.
So I just feel like there's been a lot of gap in research. We should be looking at the gaps of previous research and looking at how to make it contemporary. Like there's no perfect curriculum anyway. Because the teacher is the product of now, the children are the product of the future, and time changes. You cannot say I'm giving you the perfect to navigate the future. No, you're actually giving them the perfect to navigate now. But it's better for them to have somewhere to start from when other challenges come. So that's
okay. I'm holding it down for the past 1 hour. As well. You've got an enlightening and engaging, interesting session. Thank you very much. Okay, sorry, before we I think there is a question here.
Okay.
I'm going to read it. They said, what a wonderful presentation. How can this pedagogy benefit students with learning disabilities who find it difficult to cope with verbal reasoning because of the cognitive deficits in there? So that people just quickly.
No, like I said that the important thing is that we have identified funds for knowledge. And when funds for knowledge is identified, it's now structured to be suitable for the people who will benefit from it. So that's the very essence of finding funds for knowledge. All other challenges, for instance, the concern that was raised, I don't have the answer now because it is identification that the scope of my presentation covers.
Can I contribute to that? Okay, so I just think that since we are talking about learning disabilities, I know there are different kinds of learning disabilities, but some of them have to do with, the formal. So I think if we are using songs and all, that is one way in itself of, of facilitating learning. Yes, if we have a class of visually impaired people now, when we are using these songs, that's one way of helping them through that particular. If we have people with dyslexia that are not very good with writing, those songs, they can access it more readily than writing. So I think this pedagogy in itself is already one way of facilitating instruction for people with learning disabilities. So thank you.
You asked me if it's clear.
So
Okay, you have about 8 minutes.
do you want to speak? Let me give it the floor. Hi. Okay, no. Sorry.
So, Samson, if you want to talk,
If you want to speak, have we answered?
Yeah.
Were we able to answer your questions?
can't hear you. The network seems to
Yes,
be
I
bad.
want to speak.
Okay,
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Clearly.
Okay. What a nice presentation from Dr. Milani. I know him very well. He's one of the guru we have in Faculty of Education in UI. But sir, children with learning disabilities, they have cognitive deficits. Coming with this pedagogy that has a lot of philosophical thoughts and reading lines. And one of the cardinal issue of students with learning disabilities is that their reasoning faculty is a little bit below their peers, which happen at the presence of normal brain. Now, my question now is this: is there any way to simplify this so that they also can benefit, because this is the era of inclusion? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My question is there any way to simplify it?
Thank you, Mr. King Billy. I would say that my area of expertise is not in special education. So I would not have an answer on the procedure of simplification. But I believe that those people in that field, if they are included, they could also help to make it workable. So it's a wonderful idea to do that. It will be a wonderful idea.
Thank you. So with this, we've come to the end of this session. Thank you everyone for participating. Enjoy the rest of the conference.